I'll call the Lebanon City Council meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mike Kincaid.
Present.
Keith Campbell.
Here.
Dick Robertson.
Here.
John Copeland. Brent Wheat.
Here.
Sierra Messenger. Present. Morris Jones.
Here. Next up is the approval of minutes. Everyone have a chance to look at the minutes. Is there any changes or anything that you see need to be done?
I make a motion we approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Brent, second. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Any old business? Anyone have any old business want to bring up?
Not from me.
Not from Michael? Okay. New business. We have an ordinance 2020-08. It's amendment to Chapter 76. Traffic schedules, stop signs to be installed at the following locations. Kevin?
Thank you, council members, and good evening. This is ordinance 2020-08. Really, this is all about just amending our traffic schedules for stop signs. And then also, there's a fourth item in there here that is really in the interest of streamlining these requests in the future. It seems appropriate that stop signs could be installed at the recommendation of the city engineer, provided that Board of Works approval is in place for that, so that we don't have to continually update our ordinance with every single intersection, especially as we grow and new roads and developments are built throughout the city. But for tonight, we want to clear up one intersection that is currently signed as a three-way stop, and add two additional ones. I'll go through those one at a time. So the first one that I said is an existing three-way stop intersection that was part of the downtown revitalization and Big Four Trail project, and this is at the intersection of Lafayette Avenue and West Main Street. If you remember, it used to be that traffic along Main Street didn't have to stop. You were only stopping if you were on Lafayette Avenue. So this was approved to install those stop signs when we approved the construction of that project by both the Board of Works, the RDC, and the council. But however, because our ordinances are based off of these Chapter 76 traffic schedules, there is technically not the authority of an ordinance behind those stop signs. So therefore, our officers don't have the ability to technically write a code violation if someone runs that stop sign. So we want to clear that up and get Lafayette Avenue and West Main Street on the schedule. And then the two following ones, B and C, are new intersections, and this is primarily looking at the east side of the city along Elm Swamp Road, kind of north of Grant Street, south of Anderson Lane. There's two primary intersections between those two, and that is where Elm Swamp Road sort of splits off. It's kind of currently a Y-type intersection where you're only stopping if you're coming southbound or coming into that intersection from Elizaville Road. We would like to make that a three-way stop. It's a dangerous intersection because of the geometry. There's also a lot of pedestrian traffic there. We installed sidewalks along the east side of Elm Swamp a couple of years ago. We have a very long crosswalk there. So we will also, as part of this, we will be upgrading some curbs in that area, upgrading our ADA ramps and our crosswalks. But we would also like to square up that intersection with some striping on the existing asphalt, so that it performs more like a true T intersection than a Y as it currently exists, and then turn that into a three-way stop. So all branches of that intersection will be in a stop condition. This will help with traffic safety for the pedestrians, also help with some of the high speeds that we're experiencing along Elm Swamp Road. And then as you go further north, about halfway between there, when you get to Anderson Lane, we're looking at the intersection with Gulfside Drive, which again has pedestrian crossings that cross Elm Swamp Road. We would really like to clean that up from a safety issue. The only sidewalk along Elm Swamp is on the east side, so we've got kids coming out of the Gulfside neighborhood that have to cross there. We'd like to provide them with a safe, stop-controlled intersection for them to cross. And again, it's also to help reduce some of the speeds that we're seeing because of that long straightaway along Elm Swamp. Stop signs in themselves don't cause people to necessarily drive slower, but if you do have to stop every quarter mile as you drive along that street, we think that can make the corridor a lot safer for pedestrians and people that live and work and drive along that stretch of the city. So again, ordinance number 2020-08, we have those three intersections, Lafayette and West Main Street, Elizaville Road and Elm Swamp Road and Gulfside Drive. And then we would like to revise that traffic schedule, if possible, to allow city engineer to determine warrant of stop signs, provided Board of Works approval in the future. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, I agree with all of it except for Gulfside and Elm Swamp. I mean, if you're going to put one at Elizaville Road, you're not going to go very far, and you've got another one. Mm-hmm. And, I've been driving it for decades, and I drive it every single day, and I don't really see any issues with people crossing or anything else. There's not excessive pedestrian traffic almost any time of the day. I just don't see an issue with people crossing that at Gulfside.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the one at Elizaville Road, that long one, yeah, I see that.
Sure.
But, just the other one, I just think it's a little bit too much.
Okay.
Just.
All right, well, that's why it's here for your consideration.
Yeah.
If you want to modify those, or feel free to.
Yeah, and I hear people say certain things, like, need to slow down here and there, but I also hear on the long stretch on Patterson Street, from 32 to Noble Street, from Noble Street to 39, from Lafayette Avenue there at Sam Ralston Road, all the way to Main Street. People say, they should put a stop sign right here at Washington Street. You hear all those things, but,
Sure.
It's not going to really slow the people who want to drive fast.
Sure.
So, anyway, that's my thought.
Understood. And again, I just would reiterate that we have a pedestrian crosswalk at Gulfside. So it is partly to reduce speed, but it's also to create a safer environment for people that are crossing the street today there, because the sidewalks that were built, about 3-4 years ago along the east side of Elm Swamp do stop at Gulfside, mm-hmm. and then they direct traffic to cross across the Gulfside intersection. So there's no sidewalks then further north. So that's part of the reason why we're also looking at that intersection. It is about speed, but ultimately it's about trying to create a safer environment for our people that are walking in that corridor.
I think you could get the same idea across with signage, striping, awareness of the crosswalk being there, and even maybe a different speed limit sign at the crosswalk or something like that.
Sure. Well, I would say if we're not going to create an intersection there where you can safely stop the traffic and allow pedestrians to cross, you're exactly right. What we would need to create would be what we would refer to as a mid-block crossing. So we'd probably want to look at flashing lights and something there to lets the motorists know that there's an opportunity for pedestrians to be in the street at that location.
Well, like at the park, the signage on Ewan Drive there at East Street and Meridian Street, you got the little markers.
Sure.
That say stop for the pedestrian.
Correct.
I believe people are getting educated towards, with that after a couple of years,
Yeah.
you do something like that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if you need a flashing light. I mean, that's up to you guys, but.
Yeah.
Kevin, actually, I've got a question, but I'm kind of inclined to agree with Mike. That just seems like there might be too much, but I'll defer to others on that. But my question is, so just so I understand this, so even though we're doing an ordinance to sanctify these 3 stop signs, it will also take us out of the process going forward, is that correct?
That is, and we put that in there because, we want these 3 intersections for your consideration. And then the 4th item is to amend how we do this in the future. But if that is not an amendment that the council is interested in, we still have those other 3 intersections before you for your consideration.
Do you have any other idea of cities our size, how, I mean, I'm all for streamlining the process, but by the same token, these sometimes become a bit contentious. I mean, is the rationale just to streamline things?
Exactly, just to streamline things. We've heard from a couple of the communities that this is the way they do it, that they don't go back to city council for every single every single stop sign they want to install, that it's more of a Board of Public Works and Safety issue.
Right.
And then there's, and in the past, we've not had a city engineer, we have one now, so, I think there could be justification from an engineering and traffic warrant analysis that can go along with informing the Board of Works on making those decisions.
Okay.
And I would say, I'm guessing if you read Schedule 76, you'd see that every stop sign in the city is not listed there. So rather than going back and inventorying the entire city's stop sign inventory and adding that to the list, this might be a way to streamline that in the future and correct any issues from an enforcement standpoint that we could reach on a challenge basis.
Right.
Based
Well,
on
that raises another question I hadn't thought about. So are we going to amend Chapter 76 with a to Z listing of all stops so that they're codified, or how does that work?
Well, my hope is, and again, if our legal counsel feels differently, this is really something that, the mayor and I worked on, talking with other communities, so we were proposing to do it this way. If legal counsel does not feel as though that is appropriate, then obviously we'll take their advice under.
Now, if it moves to the Board of Works and moves away from the council, then it moves the residents a little further away from having a say-so, because it's removing their representative that they voted for to not have that voice.
Yeah. Again, that's up for your consideration. It's just, we felt as though while we're doing this, while we're talking about stop signs, let's put this provision out there. If it's not something the council wants to move forward on, again, I'm personally happy to come here every time we need something like that. But it does seem like a bit overkill to come here twice, for 2 readings of an ordinance every time we want to add a stop sign or a speed limit sign or a crosswalk. But, that's what we have to do currently, and we're happy to continue to do that. This just seemed like a way, as we said, might be able to streamline that process.
Yeah, I see that. I do. And we could speed it up and only do it once.
We certainly could.
Yeah,
That's a
we
possibility.
do the thing where we speed it up, but I'm more inclined to keep it coming to the council just because we are elected, and then people have a little bit of a voice, or at least they perceive that they have a voice. They have someone they can, that they can, that they perceive as working for them in that, on their behalf, that type of thing.
Understood.
Yeah, I have an idea about how this works, but Rob, going forward, if this was to come about, then what happens to amendments to an ordinance?
Well,
Kind of shake it up a little bit? Because all you'll be doing then is approvals.
Yeah, I think it would, and I'm happy to look at this, talk with Kevin, and, present to you, by the next meeting and see. I mean, it'll need to be in, in the ordinance ultimately, so we just need to work through that procedurally.
from my perspective, I'm a little more inclined with Mike and Brent on because I believe, like Mike just stated, we're the elected official. We're the ones that really have to answer to the public. The Board of Works is not going to answer the public. They're going to call us. They're not going to call a Board of Works member. And we approve all ordinances and every stop sign. If we do not have it inventoried right now and under ordinance right now, we need to. We need to. That's a priority, because I'm flat out tell you, if we don't have a stop sign out there that doesn't have an ordinance attached to it, it means nothing.
Is that accurate?
You take it to court, it's going to mean nothing.
That's my understanding. I mean, I can't tell you from a legal perspective if we've
That's
seen
Tony.
challenges of that nature.
That's Tony.
Yeah, I would
Well, Tony
defer to
could go
that.
out there and he can write a ticket for non-failure to stop and think he's got an ordinance that matches that, and he'll have an ordinance that matches stop signs, but that stop sign's not on that ordinance. So that means nothing. That absolutely means nothing. I'm telling you, and a court of law will mean nothing. And we really need to get those inventoried and put on a list in a chapter 8 an ordinance. So that way, all you have to do when you come in, I want to amend such and such ordinance and add these two to that ordinance. As opposed to creating another ordinance, we've got one ordinance. We just amend that ordinance to add this to the list, is what we should have.
Sure.
And I'm like Michael, I was still hesitant on the Gulf side one. The Elm Swamp Road, I'm kind of okay, because that is I understand that one, that's a bigger intersection. I saw the guys out there getting ready to pour curb or something out there, looked like, around the intersection, so I get that one, but the Gulf side, I just don't get it. A crosswalk, I think we need to mark the crosswalk what best we can, but just be putting it out there to slow that's.
Was there any complaints from neighborhoods, or did anybody approach the city on that?
I believe the mayor got some calls on that.
Okay.
I've not spoken to anyone. Since this has came up anecdotally with some people that we work with, I've heard the complaints that, oh geez, yeah, they really fly down Elm Swamp Road, just because it's more of a county road cross-section. So effectively, we talk about traffic calming all the time. Effectively, Elm Swamp Road is built to drive 55 mile an hour on, and we don't want people driving that fast on it, of course. Stop sign is one way to force people to slow down at one point, but we'd rather see a narrower street with curbs and other things that force people from a visual and perception basis to feel like they have to drive slower, as opposed to just an enforcement issue of trying to get them slower. But unfortunately, traffic calming is not a couple $100 for a sign. That's a couple $1 million to reconstruct a road, and obviously,
Right.
There's only so many of those things we can do.
And we don't even have actually you haven't taken the traffic counts to determine whether it's been
That's correct.
The stop signs are warranted.
We thought we would have completed the traffic counts today. We actually tried over the last week to count it twice, and what we've discovered is we believe our counting equipment that also registers speed of passing vehicles is in some way we're having some technical difficulties. So we're working with the manufacturer and their IT system to figure out why our counters aren't working correctly. I'd hope to be able to share counts and speed studies with you tonight, but unfortunately, I do not have those.
Kevin, let me ask you this, and do you have as an engineer, do you have the capabilities to determine a warrant of a stop sign?
Sure.
Okay. So then if you can get the counts and run it through the cycles and everything, you can determine whether it's warranted or not warranted. Okay. Because for everybody here that don't know, anytime you want to put a stop sign up, you're really supposed to do a traffic study of the intersection to determine whether a stop sign is warranted. That's the legal part of it. You got to do that to make it legal. The bad part about it is if it's not warranted, we are the people that decide whether to put it up. And sometimes the pressure to put it up is not the right answer. You know, because it's, Joe out there wants a stop sign at the intersection, and he's our buddy or something, and, you know, so we go put a stop sign up thinking it's gonna slow the traffic down, when it's really not warranted to do that. So that's why, and I've had to deal with this throughout my years, and that's why I'm very careful about stop signs. It's just, it can be a problem, but I know as elected officials, and trust me, I've been here and sat here, done it before. We've approved a stop sign where there was no real warrant for it. It's just a safety thing that you think is a safety thing. It's probably very much warranted from the discussion earlier on golf side. But yeah, I'm like Mike now. It's just, I don't see a lot of people walking the sidewalk yet that crossing that street, all my times that I've been across there for years, that, you know, we never thought there'd be people walking on the sidewalk till sidewalk went in. And then, of course, people were using the sidewalk, so that was great, you know. But I don't know how many from there, and it's great now that we got it from, what's that addition up there? Golf side.
Yeah.
We got it all the way now to now they can get to the high school
Right.
and get to the middle school, which is great, fantastic. You know, and as that addition out north there, builds out, and we could get a lane, get a sidewalk all the way in Elm Swamp down to
Auburn
there,
Meadows, Yes.
that's gonna change that. You know, that's gonna change that traffic of people coming down in the future, hopefully.
Absolutely.
So,
What we need to do tonight.
well, I think tonight, we gotta, let's decide on, what stop signs we feel are okay, and, this last line, I think we either take it out, or we change it from the Board of Works and put it City Council. Let us decide what stop signs we're gonna use first.
Well, the ordinance is, they're asking for 4 things, so we either vote that yes or no.
Yeah, it'll have to
Okay.
be
Would it create huge hardship if we tabled this just till next time?
You're not bothering me if you want to table it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, golf side, whatever, I mean, we can discuss that. The more I'm sitting here thinking about it, I like retaining the control with elected officials rather than appointed officials. Not that our Board of Works does anything they shouldn't, but as you said, Mike, when people get upset about this kind of stuff, they want to go to their
Control
elected
nuts.
representatives, not appointed officials. So that's my position. So can I make a motion?
Yes, you can.
I would make a motion that we table ordinance 2020-08 for further study.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table ordinance 2020-08 for further investigation.
Can I question, please?
Yes, question?
What's going to be the problem when it comes back exactly the same way? Because if we table it, it's the same. Do we need?
Well,
Oh, it gets changed, maybe.
that gives them a chance to actually do the traffic counts to determine what's needed. Then they can come back with that report and show us the reports on each intersection of the traffic counts and what determines where a stop sign ought to be, okay?
Or he changes his mind.
And I would
Or
offer.
they change their mind.
Legally, you've tabled it. It has not been read on first reading. So if you take it off the table on your September 14th meeting, it still has to be read then.
Correct.
It would still have to go to a follow-up meeting to be read a
Correct.
second time.
We're just delaying it a little bit. I don't think it doesn't affect anything here, really. When we accept it, and the way I look at it, Rob would have to decide, but when we accepted Main Street and Lafayette Avenue, when we accepted that project, and it had the stop signs located on that project, we accepted that project as it is with the stop signs.
I would agree, but it is not
Now,
on our
It's
stop
just
sign
not, it's
schedule.
just not in our ordinance yet, but we found out we've got several that are not on an ordinance somewhere.
And just to answer Councilman Jones' question, we have done before where we introduce an ordinance on first reading, and then it's amended before it's formally adopted. So there is a process that we could do that, and, you know, depending upon what Mr. Kulik decides to do over this time.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to table this for further investigation. Any questions? All those in favor of tabling this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor, say aye. Looks like the ayes have it. We'll table this till we can come back with more information, okay?
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, next on the agenda is claims. Everyone had a chance to look at claims? I'll entertain a motion for claims.
Move to approve claims?
We have a motion to approve the claims. Is there a second?
Second?
And we have a second. All those in favor of approving the claims, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I need one more motion.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thanks, everyone. See you in 2 weeks.